An independent assessment of Eskom's coal-fired power stations reveals that despite Eskom's maintenance budget for its coal fleet being higher, its energy availability factor is much lower. The report commissioned by National Treasury found that stage 6 load shedding could be avoided by fixing the plant's defects and applying prudent operation and maintenance practice. The conclusion was that the root cause of rolling blackouts is that the utilities management system is, quote, dysfunctional and too complex. What does it all mean? And more importantly, what does it mean for Eskom's turnaround? And for insights on the matter, we're joined by an engineer and an energy expert, Mthunzi Luthuli. Good morning, and I was saying to you, it's wonderful to have you in the studio with us as opposed to on the telephone. So this committee was, and this report was commissioned to find out the root cause of what on earth is going wrong at Eskom. It almost feels like it was a no-brainer what they eventually found, that one of the single root causes was the management system, that it's too dysfunctional and it's complex, and one of the other key pieces later on was an operation and maintenance, which anyone would say is completely obvious. What did you make of what they told us?
Okay. Good morning, Iman, and good morning to the viewers. Yes, definitely, this report hasn't come up with anything new. In fact, many of us have been saying that the very same things that the report has come out with. Now, maybe let's just summarize first what the key takeaways are from this report. Number one, it identifies the problems at Eskom. Two, it does say that those problems can be solved, both the technical and non-technical problems. Number three, it says that if we do, or firstly, it's going to take us it can take us 1.5 to 2 years to solve these problems, okay? And if we do solve them, we will, as you correctly pointed out, rid ourselves of 6 stages of load shedding, okay? And what it doesn't say, but a key takeaway from this as well, is that we actually do not need to invest in all these renewable projects, these renewable IPPs, and to build, 14,000 kilometers of transmission lines into the middle of the Karoo in order to solve our problems, okay?
But that's huge. I feel like you're saying so much that I want to pause you on certain ones.
Yeah.
This was a big attribute, and if it means that over and beyond the debt relief that the government has given to Eskom to kind of turn things around, this is also a huge cost factor, and you're saying we wouldn't need it then.
We wouldn't need to
need to build it.
No, we wouldn't need to build the renewable
aspect of it.
Remember, we've got the IPP program, yes, where independent power producers are building wind and solar plants all around the country, and we have to build transmission lines to connect those IPPs. What I'm saying is that we don't need to do that in order to solve our power crisis in the country. We really just need to sort out the problems at Eskom. And in fact, it is the cheapest and the quickest route, okay? Whilst it might cost us I don't know, 100 billion rand or so to properly refurbish the plants, and the figure hasn't been properly determined in terms of how much it would cost us. But what the report says is that the EAF of around 51% is actually costing us about 152 billion rand per annum. That is the cost to Eskom and to the country, and that's not taking into account the cost of the diesel, okay, which I think in the last financial year was about 30 billion rand. So the cost of this whole low EAF is at least 180 billion to Eskom, but of course to the economy it's much bigger.
So as you say, and you've mentioned that number, the 152 billion plus now the diesel, close to almost 200 billion if we're going to round that 180 off, equivalent to 6 stages of load shedding, massive impact in the system. And it can be resolved by the prudent management of, maintenance and operations at Eskom.
Yeah.
Part of what it also talks about concerningly is where they talk about board interference or, executive interference in the actual operational run, the kinds of things that people like yourselves would ostensibly do the way that engineers work. How do you get rid of that friction in the system? Because it seems to be having an exponentially adverse impact on Eskom being able to deliver even just... Because what they're asking to be done is basic, right?
Yeah, it's very basic. So one of the biggest problems, Iman, is that we have people in political decision-making positions that actually have never worked in industry, okay? So they don't understand how things work. So, for instance, I once worked in a factory, okay? It was a 24/7 operation. We had to run it 24/7 and do maintenance. And then every now and again, the plant would shut down so that we could do major maintenance. Yeah. Now, during those outages, you can't, if you go in and you have a plan for the outage, and then you find out something that you didn't anticipate, you need a piece of equipment, a pump or something, and it's a Saturday. You have to go and procure that piece of equipment. You phone your supplier, maybe you phone 3 suppliers, you get the prices, you look at what you're getting for the money that you're paying. And by the way, that's an engineering decision. It's not a procurement decision or a decision by someone at National Treasury. And you can't wait until Monday, because on Monday that plant has to be running. And so what you need to do is you need to devolve the power, the authority, and the autonomy to the power station managers so that they can do their work, you see. And this is what hasn't been happening. There's too much red tape, too many layers in the management structures, and too many processes.
But what they might push back and say is part of the problem around corruption in the system, where people were doing their own thing, was the breaking down of that red tape. That, it's necessary to have that level of bureaucracy to ensure that you're going to get the thing that you actually want to do.
Why doesn't it happen in the private sector? You see, the thing is, it is to give responsibility to the managers on the ground that have to do the work, but then hold them accountable, okay? So, if I spend money that I shouldn't have spent as a plant manager, then I should be held accountable for that, okay? Devolve the power down, get the people to be able to do their work the way that they're supposed to be doing it, and then hold them accountable. That's the best way of doing it. It's not the solution is not to create layers, but it's giving people responsibility, autonomy, and holding them accountable.
Just a final word on the transmission lines, though. So if we're not going to spend the money on that, we don't need to spend the money on that infrastructure to create stability of energy or increase the energy availability factor. What happens with that project of making sure that we do pursue IPPs and other sources of electricity in the system and get them connected to the grid?
Yeah, my view, and it's a view that is shared by lots of people, that what we need to do is to firstly stabilize Eskom, as this report suggests. Yeah. Fix Eskom. That's the quickest way and the cheapest way to get out of this power crisis. And then after that, we can think of how do we bring in IPPs into the power sector in a carefully thought out way that is not going to compromise us as a country from an energy supply perspective.